I wanted to love this movie. I think that there are scenes that this movie is so pretty, particularly its first half. I would have thought, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought Robbie Mueller shot it.
No shit, huh? Beautiful film.
I did think of Paris, Texas.
The leads are charismatic and charming. Guys, what's this movie about?
I don't know, but put some fucking clothes on. All of you. All of you people, put your clothes on.
It is interminably long. It becomes very clear about halfway through that the director doesn't really know what this movie is about. But then what they do to the female lead in this movie, and when I think about like Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, which it stole, basically.
So no, they didn't. Because in Cuckoo's Nest, Will Sampson gets a lobotomy, comes back, and he is no longer Will Sampson. Jack Nicholson sees this is no longer my buddy.
Right.
He smothers him with a pillow.
Right.
In this movie,
you got that backwards, but yes.
In this movie, sorry, you're right. I totally fucked that up.
Nevertheless,
in this movie, the male character makes a judgment call. She's not going to be the same when she's done with whatever they're going to do, and kills her before it happens.
It's like, I don't want to wait around to see if the shock therapy and drugs are going to help.
Yeah.
I think by that point,
you didn't say you love me the first time I asked her to say she loved me, so I'm going to fucking strangle her with a pillow. Fuck. I know. Jesus Christ. Well, there's a scene. Hold on. There's a scene, and when he showed the dude shows up in drag to rob that bank or whatever.
Yeah,
I swear to God, I'm going. They changed reels on us. Is this a different film? What's happening?
It's so out of the blue.
It's out of the blue. It's insane.
By the way, I have 3 times in my notes for this. Is this a comedy?
I think it's supposed to be. At least the first half.
Jim. Yes. Usually Jim reserves comment till the end, but it is his pick, and he sounds like he wants to say something.
Okay, so this is the first time I've seen the director's cut. I've always seen. I used to own the 2-hour version.
I want to see the 2-hour version.
The 2-hour version, I believe, is better. It was fun for me to see all the extra shit they threw in.
Only like 15 minutes.
No, there's like an hour.
It's like an hour.
3 hours long.
Yeah.
Right. The original is like 2 hours.
I thought it was 2 hours and 7 minutes or something.
Yeah.
What?
I thought it was 250, went to 3.5. There's a short.
No. There's a good hour's worth of material, mostly at the end.
Oh.
So like he doesn't do the robbery. But he does show up in drag to sneak into the hospital.
Well, then that's
which always confused me. It's like, so he just has a dress around that fits him.
So that was set up in the original director's cut. That's set up for the final part. That's you realize at the end of the film.
It's right. Although it's very poorly set up, because why suddenly does he become an armed robber?
I don't know. And it's not explained
when
really
money never seemed to be a problem before.
Although it makes his character less sympathetic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wow.
And then he kills her.
Yeah, which makes us much less sympathetic.
Yeah.
Now, mind you,
have that great little cameo by what's his name, Pignon or whatever, the guy.
The guy from all the Unknown films.
He's in Diva, and he's in
that guy. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Dealer, in the bathroom.
And Delicatessen.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was in Alien 4 or Alien 3.
Or Alien 4.
He was.
He's in 4. He's the paraplegic.
Well, he's in a couple of that guy's movies.
Yeah.
Guy that did Amelie.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Well, it's about a guy who falls for a girl who is extremely hot and doesn't like wearing clothes. And it's all good. It's at the first third of the film. It's all good because she just loves him and he loves her, and it's all working really well.
Great.
Then at the Act 2, Act 3 part, it's her mental illness starts manifesting itself, and then it starts impeding everything. The fact that when they were doing the waiter waitress thing, they stabbed the woman who was complaining about the food.
I mean,
well, she said she burns his house down.
I know. House down after she trashes it.
I know that was the first one.
The scene behind,
but you know what? At that point,
that's first act.
Was she crazy or just being a free spirit?
Okay, this is the way I was looking at that film. Exactly that. The first hour of this film is to me like, okay, so the message of this film is a girl can get away with a lot if she's hot.
Yes.
That was what I was getting out of the first hour.
That's the movie.
But then it became, oh, she's actually mentally ill.
Yeah.
But she's Hollywood superficially mentally ill. Like
it's all just
no backstory. There's no gravitas. Like
there's no gravitas. It's a device for this guy to have this sentimental voiceover narration about this crazy beautiful woman that he loved.
Now hold on.
And that's as deep as this movie is.
Well, I thought it was really funny when John said to me about I don't know, halfway through, I'm really sick of looking at this guy's dick.
Yeah.
And
Come
well,
on,
he wasn't shy about showing it off, that's for sure. But the thing is, I'm going to disagree with that because mental illness is one of those things that just kind of comes up sometimes. It's like there's some history of this in my wife's family, and the people start out normally.
But do you think it was well handled in this film?
I do not think
it's not a question of that. Okay, well, these two people, A and B, they're normal. Then one starts wandering off. The other person's going to make adjustments to kind of keep them inside their sphere, and that's what this film is about. It's about this guy forgiving her weird behavior and her increasing madness, and keep going and going.
Was it increasing though?
It is.
Not just forgiving it, actively preventing her from having consequences for it.
Yes, exactly.
Like
right.
he goes and he beats the shit out of the publisher and makes him call up and drop the charges. Like
that's right.
He's taking steps at every point.
Right.
The flip out that she has right before she sets fire to the house behind Scott. Like basically
throwing everything out the window.
So she's like,
she threw the paint on the landlord's car.
Maybe she's got a little bit of a temper problem. There's no progression. It's like she's got a temper problem. She's
right.
Do you think it comes in waves though? It comes in waves, I think.
Well, at first they're blaming it on her period.
But there's no progression. And then the only at least by the time we get to the end, you at least, maybe there's some motivation for her behavior because she, for whatever reason, wants to have a child and can't have a child, and that's gonna go into sort of really deep depression. But I just didn't think the movie. Fine, Scott, I will give you that mental illness takes different forms and it manifests itself differently. I just don't think this movie took that seriously at all.
I agree.
Like a quirk that she had.
Was it the male perspective?
Well, I think
it was the male perspective.
Yes. It's more of
yes, that makes sense.
So hold on. I want to slightly disagree with that because you said at the beginning they're blaming it on her period. At the beginning, he's using her period to deflect other people talking about it.
Yeah,
he is not internally blaming it on her period.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
He's using
that's a good distinction.
He's using the built-in sexism of French society, especially mid-'80s French society, to say, oh, she's on her period. That's why she's acting all crazy. That way, I don't have to deal with the consequences of the fact that this is becoming a problem in my life. It is another step that he proactively takes to excuse what she is doing and to shield her from the consequences of what's happening. Like at every point in this film up to what the robbery and everything else, he is finding ways to make her live a consequence-free life. When she stabs the woman in the restaurant, he starts screaming at Eddie after that, like basically gets Eddie to back off and not do anything with them, and then also convinces Eddie essentially to let them go and take over and live in this quiet town away from all of this.
Around the piano shop,
as another way of getting her consequences away from her. And it's a procession of that. And finally, what happens at the end is he realizes that the consequences are there and they are permanent. And that's why he kills her. He kills her because it's the last way of protecting her from the consequences of her actions.
Wow.
She's never going to have to wake up and realize that she doesn't have an eye. She's never going to have to deal with the the struggle of mental illness and the medication and going in and out of places and trying to reintegrate into society and it not working and all of that. He sees all of that future out in front of her and realizes that his only way of protecting her is to kill her. Is that the right thing to do? No, it absolutely is not. But that is how he's thinking about it the entire movie. His motivation is entirely internally consistent from start to finish. I hated every second.
Look at you, Tad, making sense.
I know, right?
Dude, that was amazing.
That was fucking great.
Oh, yeah. Dude. Oh,
I still don't like the movie, but
no, I hate the movie.
No, I know. I know you hate the movie, but man, you explained it so well.
It's a black comedy.
Just maybe put a crack in my veneer.
I know. I just
yeah.
You just flipped the movie over for me, man. God damn it. I love it.
Definitely. Okay, I gotta think about that.
And Jim doesn't agree. He has not been flipped.
Nope.
Where are you?
I think it's
must have liked it, or you wouldn't have picked it.
Oh yeah, I love.
He liked the 2-hour version.
The 2-hour version.
I would like to see the 2-hour version. I really would. It was something that I was thinking about a lot today because I watched this last night. I was thinking about it a lot today that I would really, because I'll bet I could start to pick out the things that they took out of it. Like I'll bet if I sat down and wrote out a list, probably 75% of the things I put in that list would be things that they cut out of the original version of it, because it's the stuff that really changes the tone of the movie. Like Jim,
like the robbery.
It may be a black comedy. You absolutely could be right about that. The version that I watched wasn't a black comedy. It was a completely tonally inconsistent, nonsensical film for most of it. The fact that I understand the character's motivation maybe says more about me than it does about the film. But like Scott brought it up, I have a significant history of mental illness around me, and it really offended me on a lot of levels, the way that they deal with her mental illness in this film. Like it's incredibly unpleasant to watch, and not in a way that a good movie about mental illness is. It was just a really unpleasant experience for me. Like I didn't.
Then where did the insight come?
119
where did your insight come from?
Because I've seen people do this. I've seen people take those steps to justify, in a lot of times, to just not admit to themselves what's going on. Like, and then also people have an internal desire to not be responsible for somebody else's problems. And so one of the ways they do that is to try to insulate that person from their problems. Like if I can build a wall around what's happening to them, I never have to think about whether or not I've contributed to this in some way. Okay. Like is there something that I could have done to alleviate this or head it off at the pass or whatever? Whether you could or couldn't have, that's what you don't want to think about. You never want to have that mental conversation with yourself. And he finally does when he's laying on the floor at the end, smoking the cigarette, when he's passed out on the floor in the kitchen. He's finally had that mental conversation with himself of, this is the end. Like, and he's going to get the money for his book, and he's going to go be an author and all that other stuff. And he's cut off that section of his life, along with cutting off her, and that's it. Like, he's gone. Like that, he's a different person at the end of it.
Well, he's worried because he's going to have money and consequences catch up to you.
Two things about this, and your observations of like mental illness in your family may be different from mine, because one of the things that tracked on this film really well for me is the fact that people who are mentally ill will be fine for a while, then they'll be sick and they'll make bad decisions and they'll get themselves in trouble, then they'll be fine. Then they'll
that's absolutely.
And now the thing is, there's a bit in this film near the end where they go out and like a canoeing picnic, like out in a river somewhere, and they're floating around. Everything's normal. And after that, she goes completely insane. But so it goes.
It's not normal. She has that conversation, and then she throws herself in the water, and she's killing herself.
But that is a very minor kind of thing. She didn't try to stab anybody in that scene. She's just being. It's just as a flight of fancy. I felt that she goes back and forth between being sane and being insane in this film, and it's just very realistic for me.
I'm not saying
that high and low thing, the whole like what's that term called when you're like bipolar thing, basically.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying that
right.
isn't realistic. I'm saying that the film handles all of it in a really unpleasant, uncaring manner.
It does.
I feel like it's paper thin. And
it is paper thin.
It's there for him to be the tragic character.
Oh, dude, this is amazing male gaze movie. Oh my God.
It's absolutely a male gaze movie, and it is. She was this crazy, beautiful creature that I couldn't control, and I just felt it would. I always had that icky feeling.
It's so male gazy. They put a male gaze character in the beginning of the movie. The old guy is watching them with binoculars, and then when she's flipping out and throwing the stuff out of the house, he's literally standing there watching her through binoculars do it and narrating it to him,
which was pretty funny, actually. There goes the casserole.
Yeah. Well, mind you, this is also kind of like a weird metaphysical thing where, he's having bad luck the entire time. Then as soon as she gets institutionalized and she's out of the picture, when she's gone, all of a sudden his fortune changes.
Right.
Isn't that weird? I can't figure that out because his no sale. He doesn't sell any of his books. And all of a sudden she's out of the picture and all of a sudden his luck changes. I think
Ironically, he's starting to build a real life without the book. He
is. He's
he's selling
piano salesman.
He's
selling pianos.
Yeah, like he's doing it. He's making friends, and he's they're establishing the life together. And then she thinks she's pregnant, and then when she isn't, it breaks her. Like,
as much as I didn't enjoy this film, it's like when I think about sections of it, it's like the piano salesman portion of it, where he made friends with the albino shopkeeper and his sort of frustrated wife, and all that.
Talk about that in a second, but keep going.
That whole domestic drama that was going on. It was it was funny, and B, it was sort of like it gave some solidity to the movie.
It kind of gave it some foundation.
Yeah.
But what the fuck did she mean? This horny grocer's wife across the street. What the fuck did that mean?
I don't know, but it was funny.
It was funny, but Jesus Christ, it was degrading to watch.
I think it's about provincial. I think it's about like the sort of buttoned up provinciality of things. Like the people who live in this sort of suburb are sort of sexually repressed, whereas they represent the bohemian coastal people who come in and have the wild sexuality and all of that stuff.
I think
that
you're right.
That town, which is famous, has basically had like 4,000 to 5,000 people living in it. It's not even in it's sort of in the middle of France.
It's 500 miles. It's 500 miles from Paris.
Yeah. And
the piano, the town they moved to.
Yeah, Margeville.
Okay, yeah. Because there's some amazing locations. First of all, this crazy seaside weird resort that starts in, and then they move to that town, which is completely physically different and distinct and really interesting.
And there's a lot of stuff going on because there's a big difference between the North and the South in France. The South is more associated with like the Mediterranean and Italians and Spaniards and all those hot-blooded Latins.
Right.
And the North is, frozen and
buttoned down.
Paris.
Well, and he has a really good line about that, which is where I started thinking about what the sort of like economic and social politics of the film was, where they're there and she's like, you can't have a kid here, you can't like raise a family here or whatever, and he's like, no, you don't understand. Like the wind blows north one day and it blows south the other day, and we're stuck here in the middle of it. Like we're literally, we are not the people who get to be in one of those societies. We're the people who are stuck here, which made me wonder, Jim, you probably would know this better. And it was something I was thinking about when I was watching it. This seaside town that they're in, is this a well-known place? Like, is this?
I was going to look that up and I didn't have a chance to.
Okay.
I assume that it's wherever the Seine flows into, the English Channel.
Because it felt like French Atlantic City. It felt like, it felt skeezy in that way.
It totally does.
It felt like
it's like Dover.
No, it felt like Capitola by the Sea, which was back in the day was all just summer rentals and nothing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it
Well,
felt
it's
like.
summer rentals that have gone to seed, and
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just a bunch of weird.
That's what Capitol was like
people
before
living
the
out
Silicon Valley came along and made everything too expensive.
That's what Dover's like too. It's these
Yeah.
rundown hotels with
It is.
nobody in them.
Yeah.
Also, that Beineix, along with Luc Besson and Leon Carax,
Yeah.
are the cinema de look, as it's called in French. And so there was, it was kind of a reaction against Godard and the new wave of like trying to deconstruct cinema and stuff. And they wanted to just have this kind of superficially glossy kind of,
It succeeds. It's beautiful.
Has anyone seen Diva?
Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Which is his previous film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that
Good
movie.
stuff.
And this,
Yeah.
like, right around this time, Besson did Subway.
Yes.
Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like I love that. That was
The
a
film
really
Nikita came a
exciting
couple years
time.
later. That blew everything away. Yeah.
Right.
This movie, I didn't realize initially when I started watching it that it was 1986. And there's only one point that it's 1986, which is when they mention the year when the mother dies. But like it had to me a really interesting quality of feeling much more like a 90s movie, especially the sort of hallucinatory and really like vivid colors and stuff like that. And then also the fact that everything is framed exactly in the middle of the frame.
Yeah.
Like almost every, like that one shot of the burning bungalow right on the side there. Yeah, that is the only time that something isn't framed directly in the middle of the frame for the whole movie.
No
Like
shit.
even when people are having group conversations, it's all happening at a table right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I must admit, this is the first time I've seen the extended version. It's also the first time I've seen it not on a shitty VHS 4x3.
It's gorgeous. It's
like a
absolutely
pan
gorgeous.
It's a very pretty
Yeah.
film.
Bonkers.
Yeah. Also, they avoid the worst of 80s fashion. It's really hard to tell what era it is.
There's one moment where he's wearing a jacket with the sleeves rolled up like
Oh,
a
yeah.
jacket.
Right.
And I was like, Miami Vice.
Right.
And the yellow jacket at the end was a real jacket that the costumer picked up at like a Goodwill or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but there's some color coding going on in this thing.
Yeah.
Yellow is the protagonist's color. You
and
notice that?
blue is her color.
Blue is her
There's
color.
blue
She has
color.
that blue overcoat.
I
And there's
swear to
blue
God,
in every
it's
scene in the
beautifully
movie.
consistent to the
Yeah.
entire movie. The blue and the yellow fighting it out, basically.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's
You
visually
guys
very
have mentioned this, but all the stuff in the middle where it's the four of them, it's the restaurant owner and his girlfriend and the
Yeah.
That's the other good part.
Yeah, it's fun.
I liked the dynamic. that
Normal.
they had. Like, even though nothing is happening and the story really isn't progressing, they had they were all
Yeah.
They're good characters.
Right,
The
and
guy
that's-
Eddie who owns the restaurant.
That's where I was like, maybe I can live with the slow pace of nothing going on. This movie is luxuriously time wasting. The way only young people could waste time.
No shit.
These people fucking waste time.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna sit and drink and
We're
smoke
gonna drink
cigarettes
and screw and smoke cigarettes
Yeah.
like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, it's common
So what
people. The
happens
movie.
is the last
Yes.
act, the last half of the movie, which takes place in the south of France, away from everybody else, that is more in it's the length of the other two acts. I think of it as a 3-act
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
play
Pretty much.
in the previous version, the theatrical version.
Oh.
I
So
didn't see
there's-
it, though.
They basically move down there, they take over the piano store. There's the strangeness with the butcher, the grocer next door.
Shopkeeper,
They
yeah.
deliver the piano, and then she goes crazy and he kills her. And there's there's all bunch of stuff that's like left out.
So most of the material that got put back in was towards
Third
that,
Was in
that third
that
act.
last act.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Mhm.
The only thing I really noticed from the beginning that was not there before is the little side story of the cop who's written a novel too
Oh yeah.
and is pissed.
Yeah.
This is the comedy part we're talking
That
about.
was-
This
Yes.
is film a
Right.
comedy.
Actually,
the shorter version is a lot funnier, I think.
Mhm.
And it's mainly because they cut out a lot of her craziness towards the end.
There's the part where they have the fight and they go running through the town, and then the cops roll up on them, and the guy just opens the door and fucking dive rolls out of the car and just like does like 3 flips on the ground, is pointing his gun at them.
I know.
What the hell?
They have the whole
to point his gun throughout the rest of the dialogue.
And then the other cop makes him get back in the car, and he turns the fucking siren on, and then the other cop runs and jumps on the hood and is pointing his gun at him through the window, and he's gonna shoot him if he doesn't turn the fucking siren on. And it's like, what is going on with the tone of this film?
Exactly.
You just see her fucking slice her hand open, punching out the window. Like, it's so wild.
It is. Yeah, I can't tell if this is great filmmaking or French filmmaking
or terrible or French filmmaking.
It's like I can't tell.
Consistent. I've seen, so he made 3 movies that really made it over here: Diva, this one, and Moon in the Gutter, which is a kind of period piece with Gerard Depardieu in it. But then, like, he made a couple of other flicks, Rosalind and the Lions and something else. And I've seen Rosalind and the Lions, which is, again, strange. It takes place it's about lion tamers in this sort of small traveling circus. It's just, and he just died recently too. And I noticed he hadn't made a film since like 2005 or something. So. He only has like 5 or 6 films too.
Right.
Yeah. Diva is a better film because the plot it's plot driven.
It's more coherent, I think.
Yeah, it's more coherent.
Yeah.
Does anyone know about Beatrice DeLay and what her life has been like?
Is that the actress here?
Yeah.
That's her.
She looks like she's been ridden hard and put away wet. I mean,
nicely put.
So this was her first film.
Yeah.
This was her first film, and at the time that she made this film, she was married to an artist, a painter, and no one's ever said for sure, but it sure as fuck sounds like the 2 main characters had an affair while they were making this, because they were essentially living together while they were filming, especially
and mostly naked during the film.
Right. Yeah. And simulating sex with each other and all of that other stuff. Yeah. And so it certainly seems like the 2 of them had an affair. She becomes extremely well known after this movie comes out. And
I can imagine.
And this is based on her telling of it, they start going to have her do stuff like modeling and that kind of thing, or they go to a place because he's doing art, and everyone starts paying attention to her and not him. And he can't deal with that. And their relationship falls apart. And a couple of years after this, they get divorced. And then several months after they get divorced, he killed himself.
Whoa, dude.
And then after that, she starts falling into significant drug use and depression. She has several arrests. She has severe drug issues that really completely derail her career. She ends up in another movie later on that's about people in prison. And while they're doing the research for the prison movie, she ends up meeting a guy who's in prison for beating and raping his ex-girlfriend. They spend 24 one-hour sessions talking to each other, fall in love. She stands up for him at his parole hearing. They get married. A couple of years after they get married, she leaves him because he's abusive towards her, fucks up her career again. She starts getting arrested for like shoplifting and stuff like that after that. And it seems like only just recently she's come out the other side of this. And it was like, I started reading this and I was just like, oh my God. Yeah. Like this movie fucked some people up.
I guess it did.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Like it was just it's like there's several other things that happen in periphery to this movie where it's just like it's so weird. This movie had such an outsized impact on a lot of stuff, like which for a movie that most people have never heard of and will probably never see is pretty wild.
Well, at the time though, I remember making a big splash, and you go in you look at the IMDb and the reviews are generally good.
Yeah, generally.
Like it's sort of just like the conversation we're having right now is like
well, it made a big impact in French cinema at the time.
Sure.
Yeah. This is part of the
It's
westernization
gorgeous.
of like the
He's gorgeous.
Americanization.
It's gorgeous.
of
The lead, the male lead, like he keeps working. He shows up in everything.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone else in this movie is in at least one, if not three, Luc Besson films. Like,
Pretty much. Yeah. But it was a
he's even in Subway, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Eddie, the guy who plays Eddie, did a bunch of voices in those animated movies that Luc
I
Besson
wanted to
made a
look
few
him up.
years
I didn't
ago.
have time. The guy who plays Eddie looked super familiar to me. Like I know I've seen him in other things.
Yeah, he's Moroccan. He was born in
Oh.
Paris, but he's of Moroccan descent.
Mhm.
So yeah,
He's done a bunch of TV
and he's a
work.
singer.
oh, okay.
And he's done a bunch of TV work, so you might have seen him in various TV. I think he was on like a CSI episode, even like he, like yeah. He's one of those guys who does stuff in America and in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody have any big thoughts?
I'll just say that
the thoughts I had about this film got blown away by Tad.
a little bit.
Um,
A little bit. Yeah.
I'm kind of like,
what's this
I'm
movie
kind of
about?
like,
I mean,
I'm
Tad
kind
might
of
have-
like, I'm just what I saw, just kind of clawing back to my thoughts about this again, and it's like, I think that it is flawed because it's a male perspective, but it's kind of a weird tragedy in a lot of ways. It's just something it's
Definitely a tragedy.
Oh, it's
yeah,
definitely-
and it's just I at the time I just kind of like endured it because it took 2 nights to watch it, but I think it was really excellent. I think it was just an excellent film.
I was going to stop at about 30 minutes from the end and then pick it up today, and then I just decided to finish it last night. I was just
Powered
like,
through.
nah,
Yeah,
just
we powered through. Sheila took a couple of naps. I watched the whole thing. I don't think it's excellent, but weirdly, I think I appreciate it a little more just because Tad's opinion on it,
Dude,
at least it's internally consistent.
the power of a lady opinion, man. Come on.
But I was more engaged with Tad's discussion of the film than I ever was with the film itself.
Interesting.
I'm with John on that one.
Uh-huh.
Like, if I didn't know what the movie was about, Tad sort of pointed in the direction of, okay, it might have been about that, but it still, at the end, kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's at the end, it's by the guy who snuffs his girlfriend out because she's crazy, and there's no way around that. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I just think that his motivations are consistent through the whole film.
Yeah.
That's my point of view.
No, it's she's great,
And
until
that
she's
to me
not
makes
great,
the
and then
film actually better in retrospect.
In retrospect, for sure, it is.
It's
also
a more
Too fucking long. The points that were made could have been made in an hour 20.
Agreed.
Yeah.
it's a more successful film. Unfortunately, what it was successful at, I don't think was particularly good.
All right. Well, I
Not a
guess
thought.
we're at thumbs.
Again, the
Jim's
total
corner,
flip
though.
side of what.
Jim, why'd you pick this one?
I just really like it. I mean,
Okay, well, we can do thumbs at this point.
a great flick.
All right.
Okay.
I gave 2
Pretty
thumbs
good.
up.
It's pretty good. It's just like
I was here and Ted.
I think of it more as a comedy than anything else, and it's.
I was.
I'm
percent
legitimately willing to give the hour or the 2-hour version a shot. Like I definitely am interested in what that ends up being like.
No, I like the 3-hour version because, like, again, I didn't see the 2-hour version, but I liked all the nuance, all the strange stuff, like him buying a piece of property in the middle of nowhere and giving it to her. Like, it didn't advance. It didn't advance the plot, but I like the fact
It didn't advance the plot, and I wasn't even sure if it was real, if they really had bought it, or if he was just poetically saying all the.
But that's life. That's how
Everything you see here is yours. Did he mean that figuratively, or did he
Well, he
literally?
was talking about under his arm.
Bought a big piece of cheap property out of the middle of nowhere and gave it to her.
with a shitty fucked up
With a
stone
barn with a
building.
hole in the roof.
Medieval
Yeah.
broken barn in the middle of it. It's still, okay, you can put whatever you want in there, but it's still property.
You know, I want to bring up one other quick thing, which is that you talked about somebody mentioned earlier on about the robbery and like money and that kind of
How
stuff.
bizarre that was.
But money was a something that flowed through the entire movie.
Yeah.
Them not having money is something that comes up over and over again. What are they going to do for work? She doesn't want him to be a plumber. There is a consistent theme of money. So when he sees her really start to go off the deep end, his decision is, well, what if I take money out of the equation? What if money isn't something that we have to be stressed out about? So I go rob this armored car thing, get a bunch of money. We're going to be set for a while. We don't have to worry about that. I can deal with this. It doesn't work.
Where did he get the money to buy all that property?
From that property was probably real fucking cheap.
Yeah, because it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, French real estate was probably like really
it's like buying acres in Arizona. Yeah, you can do that, but do you want to live in Arizona?
Right.
Like,
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I agree that the money was discussed and it was an item of discussion. Yet it never seemed to really be an issue because they were drinking and partying and screwing.
Always on someone else's dime.
They had good friends.
So do poor people. Poor people
and
drink and screw and take drugs and have fun all the time.
As I said, it's
common people. It's common people.
They're having a lot of fun, these poor people. Come on.
It's 24-hour party people.
I know. Come on. It's feeling Appalachia, like living from welfare check. They're having a great fucking
living it up.
Yeah.
Living it up.
All right, where was I?
Making bourbon whiskey and
exactly.
Meth.
And meth.
All right, good enough. Like I'm calling. Okay, all right, calling it here. That's it. All right.